Okay, we'll move to agenda item 23D, Wildlife Damage Management Committee Report, fiscal year 2021, Draft Predation Management Plan, Final Draft. Commissioner and Committee Chairman John Almberg and Wildlife Staff Specialist Pat Jackson for possible action. The Commission will hear a report from the Wildlife Damage Management Committee Chairman, and the Commission will review the final draft of the fiscal year 2021. The Commission may take action to modify or endorse the plan. Mike Scott's here in place of Pat Jackson. I don't know if Mr. Scott or Commissioner Almberg wants to start.
Yes, we had a meeting. It was a Zoom meeting. I apologize to anybody. My confidence with Zoom is not very good. We had ran over a practice run, and I was looking on so I might have missed some public comment. I did receive some comment prior to the meeting, just prior to the meeting, that I shared with the other members. We had some members of the committee, Commissioner Hubbs and member Tom Casanelli, a cab member from Humboldt, that were absent. So we still had a quorum, but we definitely had some members missing. Anyway, we didn't have a whole lot of comment on this. The park had reviewed it. The park committee had reviewed it and approved it. What comments we did receive was basically on the new project. All the rest of the projects we've all seen multiple times. And most of the comments in regards to Project 26, looking in Washoe County, was to expand that project to a bigger geographical area. I think that the response was that it's difficult to expand a project because we take our efforts on this and we're distributing the efforts. So instead of having a concentrated effort of our study in a core area, we're spreading that out to maybe two core areas. So anyway, that was our discussion. We did approve it as written. That's about the extent of it.
Mr. Scott.
Chairman Johnston, members of the Commission, I can go through and read all the projects and list out the funding if you'd like, or I can answer questions.
My preference, unless I hear an objection from the Commission, would be to take questions. I think everybody has had an opportunity to see this, as well as gone through the committee process and review it again in preparation of today's meeting. So if there's any questions for Mr. Scott or any other of the committee members. Commissioner Hubbs?
Yes, I just had first one quick comment in that I think there was a confusion. So I missed that meeting for our committee, which unfortunately occurred, but that's okay. We just keep moving right now. We have a lot going on with trying to coordinate a lot of our things while we're doing it remotely. And but I was just going back, because this often gets confusing even for me, and I'm involved in this. We do a draft of 1 year, and then we implement that 1 year, and then at the same time we go back and we show the results of the prior year. So we have already seen this draft. Is that correct?
Commissioner Hubbs, that is correct. The Commission has heard this twice. It has gone before the Park Committee and the Wildlife Damage Management Committee.
Correct. So I feel pretty comfortable. I remember, I think even at our last, it was at our last commission meeting that we spoke about this draft plan with Pat Jackson. So it's the same plan. So for that reason, I just wanted to note that I feel pretty confident, because I felt confident at our commission meeting looking at what he had proposed. So I'm ready to move on this whenever the rest of the commission is ready to do so as well.
Any additional questions? It is an action item. Is there any public comment?
And I can talk loud, so you won't have to give me the mic.
No, we're gonna record it.
All right.
On Project 46, we had asked in a previous meeting for Persian County on the west side, so that'd be 041 and 042 to be added into that Project 46. That, as it sits now, we're a hole in the middle on that project, and we're wanting at least that piece of our county added into that project. And I think 1 or 2 meetings ago, I had asked that same thing, so I was just asking again.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission then. Commissioner East?
So Mike, what would that do to add the Pershing? Could we add them at this point, or do you feel like, from what you just said about expanding number 46, Project 46, that we're just not in that position right now?
Commissioner East, my preference would be to learn how this whole thing works. It's experimental. We do have some other projects that have been using camera traps to study black bears, but on a large landscape scale project like this, we don't know what the results are going to be, and I'm fascinated with this. I think there was a lot of interest in expanding this almost statewide at some of the earlier meetings, but and I certainly support expanding this project in the future, assuming that it works, or that we find what the challenges are, anything like that. So at the moment, I would prefer that we leave it where it's at and consider expanding it in the future.
Okay, and I'm okay with that. But I don't want to forget about that, so maybe we revisit that next year. I don't remember what the length of this one is. The length of this project, do you remember? Is it just a yearly? Yes? Multiple year. Okay. Well, I won't forget. If you won't forget.
Commissioner East, Mike Scott for the record. Yes, no, I completely agree. Again, I'm fascinated with this type of project, and I would like to see it expanded, but I would like to see that it's valuable before we just expand it on a larger scale.
Any additional comments? Commissioner Keel?
Yeah, Mike, so just to be clear, we're not bounded geographically once this project gets approved. We'll be able to later, if and when we provide greater funding for the project, to expand within the current scope. We wouldn't need to create a second project, Project 47 for Persian. We could just keep it underneath the same one.
Commissioner Keel, Mike Scott for the record. I think we probably would consider having a separate project, but I would defer to either Deputy Director Robb or Director Wasley to make that determination.
We're not bound. We can adjust it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Barnes?
Yeah, I think we've seen this a couple times now in the past, and so in order to keep this tide rolling, I'm going to make a motion on this, and I move to endorse the final fiscal year 2021 Predation Management Plan as presented.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Barnes, nicely played on the rolling tide. Seconded by Commissioner Hobbs. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 24. Petition, Mr. John Zenz, big game tag drawing changes for possible action. Mr. Zenz has submitted a petition to change the big game tag drawing to 1. Give 25% of the overall tags to max point holders. 2. Reduce the number of choices to only 3. And 3. Allow only up to 50% of the tags in any unit to be issued to Max Point holders. The Commission may take action to deny or accept the petition and initiate rulemaking. I believe Mr. Zins is here, so I'll allow him to come and I'll give him an opportunity to... We did receive the petition. I just have one housekeeping matter that I'd like to take care of before we get to it. Commissioner Cavilla prepared a written comment to it, so I will... Okay, Mr. Zins. I don't think so, and you really need to get as close as you can to the mic and speak loudly into it if you could.
Chairman Johnson, Commissioners, appreciate your time. Respond to this.
If you could speak up, please, just so everybody can hear you. I appreciate it.
Most of you commissioners weren't alive back in the late 60s when the tags were drawn back in the late 60s. It was a statewide over-the-counter deer tag, and there were only 3 trophy hunts. It was the elk, antelope, and the bighorn. We only had one bighorn back then. And from that point forward, in the early 70s, they put a quota on the mule deer and put them drawn through 4 big game drawings. Somewhere in that time frame, and I'm not sure when, the department initiated, and it was only paper applications at the time, and they allowed everyone to apply for tags with one $5 fee. They got inundated with applications, and that went away right away. And then in 1976, the commission initiated another program that would help Max Bonus Point people, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the hunter had to keep 4 cards, and in the 5th year apply, and they had preferential status, and they got their tags. But that didn't work either. In that first year, 1980, there were 89 desert sheep hunters for 80 tags. The 9 guys got them the next year, but for bull elk, there were only 12 elk tags. And so it took them 3 or 4 years before anyone else could even put in for the draw. And so it was kind of, but after that, they went to just a random draw. And then it's all tags, everybody first come, put your name in the hat and get out of the hat. But, that preferential system and the 2 systems that followed the random draw were all, the commission put them there so that people who were longtime supporters of the department could have a better shot at a tag. And so they did just straight bonus points first. You get 10 bonus points, you get 10 chances. And then that quite wasn't working. And they went from that to squaring the bonus points, and that's where we are here today. And I want to rebut some of the complaints that people say, and I'm not sure, I haven't read Tommy's letter, but one of the most common things they say is, well, those sheep hunters, they only use one choice. And so at the time I put this out was late last year, so 2018 was the stats, all I had available. But the California bighorn hunters that year, 84% of them had a second choice, 67% had a third choice, 44% had a fourth choice, and 36 people had a fifth choice. And that same year, in those same stats, I looked at the desert bighorn sheep and I only looked at the top 5 point groups because the 25% would have affected all of those people. They would have more than likely got a tag. but I looked at those top 5 point groups and looked at just their first choice applications. They literally put in for 22 different first choice applications, 22. And I thought, wow, we got some good sheep units. But the other thing that I got from Jack Robb and Calcme, they sent out all the information, and I'm not sure you commissioners have even seen it. They give you the number of applicants and people that applied for a bonus point only. And then they provided this list that showed years to clear the list. And the goat was one of them. There was 5,600 people applying, 4,000 bonus point only applications, and you divided it by 8 years, 8 tags. And it only took 1,200 years for everybody to get a tag. But some of that's a bit pie in the sky because of the mortality and people get old and those sort of things. But if you look at the primary 3 drawings that the most applications are submitted for, they're elk, antelope, and deer. And you use their same formula, just divide the total applications, bonus point and apps, into those numbers. And to clear the list, it should only take 13 years for elk, 8.8 years for antelope, and 3.8 years for deer. And I looked at that same year, and I calculated there was a little over 6,000 tags. So about 1,700 tags would be available for deer for those max bonus point people. And in that year, there were only 1,300 people that had greater than 4 bonus points. So it would have kind of cleared the slate. And the same thing when I checked on the desert sheep and looked at the top 5, you know, the 25% would have pretty much cleared the slate for those top 5 point categories. I think that's pretty much it. I'm just hopeful that you'll take a look. Most people know I'm sheep, okay, just like a bunch of other people. You may never have them. There's a lot of people that have supported the department for a long time. And one thing, and all of the drawings previously were designed to give those people a better chance. And I'm hoping that you'll just take a look at that. Most of the people that are projecting realize how open for elk, antelope, deer, and they could clear this. It wouldn't take a lifetime. They could actually plan on what unit they're going to and when they're going. And some of those people are going to have to sit out a little longer if they, you know, they say they want Mount Rose Mule Deer tag. That's the only place they want to go. But if they watch it, they'll get their tag, and it won't take decades or lifetimes. And that's all I really have to say. If you have any questions of me.
I have a couple. Why 25%? That seems just like an arbitrary number.
Well, I've applied for decades in western states. And if you look at California, they give 75%. And Utah and a couple of Wyoming is 50%. I just thought it was fair and equitable. And if you look at it overall, the 25%, it's not, there's still 75% for everybody else. And it just helps those people that have supported the department the longest. The same with the 5 choices and the 3 choices. It actually spreads the application pressure. And so you're in different areas, and there's less apps in the drawing, so it helps everybody get a tag if they're strategic. And only half, my third, it leaves those really good areas. In Arizona, thousands of people put in for the premier sheep unit that absolutely have no chance of drawing because they're all gobbled up by max bonus point people. And that's why I wanted some of those tags available to everyone.
I guess I have a trouble somewhat understanding some of the math, because if I look at like a unit, and if we take a unit and some of the, and I use a number to make it easy, 16 tags. So we're going to say 4 go to max bonus point holders. 1/4.
May I interject?
Well, isn't that the math?
No, I learned this through Alchemy and Jack Robb. When they do the drawing,
No. I'm talking under your petition. If a unit had 16 tags.
No, I can get to that if you'll allow me.
Okay, because I need to understand the math of the petition.
everyone for every hunt, both resident and not resident, they square their points and give them all a number. So everybody has a number. There's a list. I don't know how many. It's 80,000 or some people. So the very first applicant out of the hat could be a doe mule deer. The next application.
No, I understand that. I thought you wanted 25% of tags in a hunt unit area for any particular hunt to go to max bonus point holders.
No, just overall 25% of the total tags. It's just that they couldn't gobble up all the tags in any one unit. It's 25% overall. So like in like a mule deer hunt, the top 25% could consist of somebody with 20, somebody with 17, somebody with 16, somebody with 15, and they could be in entirely different units. But if all of them with 20 points put in for Mount Rose and took up all 30 tags, they could not do that. They could only get half.
So let's say someone has max points in 2 different species, and they get one of these tags through the 25%, then their max points on the other one wouldn't apply to their draw?
No, they would still apply.
I'm not following how you envision this working then. I misunderstood the petition.
It's to me, I'm sorry, it seems kind of simple that once the 25, they could, that list of everybody, once they get down the list so far, and the 25% for like desert sheep is like 60 tags. Once this 25% is gone, then they go back up the list to the guy that had 5 points and he wanted the the bears, and
So-
they start all over again.
So if you had 100 sheep tags, 25 would go to max point
Correct.
holders.
But not more than half in any individual unit.
Well then, okay, what if all the max point holders put in for the same unit and you couldn't give them 25% of the tags? And you're going to take away a few choices of those max.
No, they would get bounced if they all put in the same unit and they only had one choice.
So
Only
how does
half
that
of those-
address the problem of rewarding the people who are max bonus point holders? It seems to me that's not, that doesn't.
It's very rewarding to the people that are been at decades.
Yeah, but I think one of the things you commented on was that the current system gives you a better chance if you've been in the system longer with bonus points. And my question is, you're just given an even better chance.
Slightly better. Well, but crazy.
Okay, so we would take the total number of tags in any species or all across the board?
Each individual hunt, like rifle mule deer. Rifle mule deer, if there were 6,000 tags, 20% would be 1,500. Desert sheep, if there's 300, 25%, it'd be 25% of the resident hunt. If there's 250, whatever that number is, 75, and so on. But it's the whole hunt, not just out of the one unit.
Okay, and then if 50% of the tags in a particular unit on a particular hunt went to max bonus point holders,
They couldn't draw that hunt then. The rest of the max bonus people would be down to another choice in another area.
so isn't that denying max bonus point
Not
holders
really.
a
He had the chance at what he wanted. And then if he's bounced another year, he'll be at the top of the heap again and go for that area again.
Okay.
But I don't know if I mentioned the mule deer and the number of tags that were available and how many people, and even like the sheep the first year, if they had done that, my proposal in 2018, it would have removed the top 5 point groups for sheep, for desert sheep. Because it's like 60-some tags, and there was only about that many people in there. It would really reward them. I don't have max for desert sheep.
Questions for Mr. Sims? Commissioner Almberg?
Yes.
I do remember the program in the late 70s, early 80s when they changed the system. They'd gone to this preference points card system, and they changed it, and then they gave a certain percentage. Do you remember, was that 25% that they took off the top then as well?
No, back then I said there were 89 people saved all 4 cards. 80 people, there was 80 sheep tags. All 80 of those sheep tags, 100%, went to max. And the 9 guys got them the next year. And the same with the bull elk. So the bull elk, there were 66 people and only 12 tags. It took them several years because they went all to max bonus point people before anybody could even have a chance at an elk tag until they got those preferential people out of the system.
Yeah, I guess I'll confess, I was a benefactor of that program.
Me too.
I was not at that point in time, what I would consider a dedicated sportsman. I mean, I was pretty young still. I applied every year that I could since I'd been 12. But I also had family members that are sitting alongside me that didn't have their 4 cards. They had collected 2 or 3, and that pool going down there never did set. You know, when I look back at it, I don't view it as being fair because those people, that pool got guaranteed a tag.
Oh yeah.
And no other time since we started a draw system has there ever been a guaranteed tag, but that pool of preference points got guaranteed a tag.
Well, my system, at some point in the bonus pay process, when they got to the top of the heap and 25%, it would pretty much, yeah, you would get a tag. And people would actually know that and could plan for that. And, you know, they would plan for where they could go hunting and when they could go hunting and their vacation. And if they wanted one of those special units, they might have to wait a year or 2 longer. But again, 75% of the tags are available in a random draw. And if you look at the stats, I did them from 2012, and people said, well, that's 8 years ago. And I looked at them again in 2019. And if you look at the stats, and I have a sheet here if I'm allowed to pass it out.
Sure, and I received an email from you last night that had another chart on it, and I'm pulling that up.
But the antelope and the elk are one of the most sought after. The majority of the tags went to 7 and under points. And 300... Find my chart. I need one. Thank you. But on the antelope and the elk, even with our current draw system, with 0 points and 1 point on the antelope, 350 people drew. 350 people drew with either 0 in their first application or their second application with 1 point. The other one...
But is that a bad thing?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. All right.
But that's what I'm saying.
But that's what sometimes when I read this petition and hear the arguments in favor of it, it's like, well, so many tags went to people with 0 points or 1 point. And it seems like the assertion is that's a bad thing, and I think that's a good thing.
No, I think it's a wonderful thing. My assertion is that it doesn't take people that long. It doesn't take a lifetime. The kids are still in it. We're not taking that much away from those people is what I'm saying.
Well, what you sent last night showed by antelope and point groups, and
my chart is to show that the max bonus point people aren't taking the majority of the tags. The mid-range groups are taking a ton of them, and the lower point they're taking a ton of them. So when we do this, it's not like you're taking a bunch away from those lower point groups. You know, I'm on both ends of the spectrum, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. I don't have 6 points for the other sheep. I want to be in the drawing.
Commissioner McNinch, I think you had a question.
Mr. Chairman. I guess, Mr. Zenz, it's obvious that you put a lot of time and effort into it, so I respect that. And I guess my question is that as time goes down the road, somewhere along the way, that wave of people that you're not removing from the system, the mid-group maybe, they're going to get into that high group, and you might resolve some of those, but some of them are going to persist. And then the next year, some of those might come off, but another group's going to come in, and pretty soon that's going to be a wave. And we'll sit, and what I can see happening is we're sitting here talking about upping that number to 50% to clear the list.
Now, and on those primary animals, that's why it works so well. Elk, antelope, and deer, according to their stats for applications and bonus point applications, the worst on is elk, and it should take only 13 years to clear the whole, every point group. So if you look at it, shouldn't it just take that long for we get to the top of the heap so that point creep doesn't get them?
What I'm struggling with is that I feel like there's some variables that are thrown out on the table. I'm not necessarily the right person to throw out what those are. I don't know how to articulate it, but it's because if it was that easy, because that's assuming that you're assuming that people are going to be moving into that top tier again.
May I respond to that? And I think it's part of it is like if you look at like the elk for an example, what is it, 1,800 bull tags or something? I'm not sure the exact number. All of those people are out of the system, and they're out of the system for gathering bonus points for 7 years. Same with antelope. There's a good portion of them that are out of the system. They don't gather any bonus points. And so it allows those lower bonus point people to creep to the top of the heap.
So we have that dynamic now.
Yes.
Across the spectrum.
But that's what I'm saying. With the 25%, you're removing some from the top end of the spectrum, and those people have been at it the longest. And it doesn't get piled up that because of the number of tags. And it doesn't work. There's not much you can do like on the goat and the Rocky Mountain bighorn and the California bighorn because there's so few tags. The only thing we can do there is get more tags.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with it. I'll think about it a little more. Maybe I'll be able to articulate it a little better. I just feel like there's a wave that's created that's going to hit, maybe not all in 1 year, but over a course of a few years as that wave comes through. And when it does, that's where we're going to have so many people that are going to continue on. You're going to have those top tier. You're going to have people sitting in that top tier not drawing through your proposal for several years.
I don't think that's true. Just because of the sheer volume of tags that are given out to everybody and to the max bonus point people, to me it alleviates the problem of the point creep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I'm trying to understand it completely. So
It took me a while too. I didn't understand that all of the hunts were put together in the draw. Male, female, doe, resident, non-resident, and they went from the top of the list until the quota was gone. So the first guy could have a doe antelope, the next guy could have a bull elk, the next guy could have a bear tag, and the next guy could be a non-resident and have one of those tags. And so they do square everybody's number, give them their best number, and put every hunt, in one line. Tiffany?
But one of the things you stated in your petition was that you went through that after the draw numbers are reduced to each applicant's lowest number, each and every applicant has one of 6,838 numbers in the drawing. And you say max applicants have 1.09% of the numbers issued to only max applicants, right?
Correct.
Okay. They may only have 1% of the numbers, but they're also a small portion of the applicants.
Yes.
Okay, and they also have their lowest number out of how many?
It depends on what year you're speaking of.
Well, a max bonus point holder. They have the lowest of how many numbers that were given to them.
That was my other point in showing you those numbers on how many max bonus point people actually draw. Because all of the other point groups outdraw them.
But that's not necessarily a true analysis. Because when you say people with 15 points outdraw max bonus point holders, there might be a lot more people with 15 points than the max points. And you can't assume every person with 15 points or 10 points, they may have already drawn that tag, they're back into the system, they've gotten up to that point. They're just as committed to the department as the max point holder. They're just coming through a second or third time in a particular species. And the addition thing, if max bonus point holders may have applied for 10, 15 years for bonus point only, they never put themselves in the game. Now they get to that point and say, now I want to be in that category of not the 25% of the tag.
But to me, buying a bonus point, you're in the game, you're supporting the department. You're in the game choice. There's a few people that use one choice, and they'll have to wait longer.
Commissioner Hubbs?
I'm sorry, I was waving my hand down here, and I was trying to let a lot of you speak before I speak. My first question was, it says looking at the bonus point drawing for California Big Sheep. That's how it heads off this petition on the back. And I just want to, are we just talking about California Bighorn sheep, or is this all big game? I just want to clarify.
My proposal was for all big game draws.
Okay, so I guess what I'm going to point out is something a little bit different than what's been mentioned here, and it's about the factor of how you accumulate bonus points, and that's typically with time, right? And so for me, our commission has always been big on hunter opportunity for youth. And what I think we're seeing is that if we have a pool of people who've accumulated a lot of points over time, and we're ensuring that they have a higher likelihood of a draw, then this will reduce the likelihood of draw for youthful folks that are just starting to hunt. That's what I'm seeing. So I wrote down a note from me personally. I don't hunt, but my little boy hunted for the first time this past year. And I was a very nervous Nelly mother, but he was very fortunate after his second year to obtain an elk tag, which a huge success. I mean, everyone in my family for him. Can you hear me on this? So I wrote down that it could have taken Michael, my son, 13 years to get an elk tag. He's 14 or 15 when he went, so he would have been 27. A lot of would have changed in Michael's life had he had to wait until he was 27 years old to go elk hunting. I mean,
No.
he had the most. I just want to continue on, and then you can respond back, but it was a life-changing event for him. And I can't imagine if we had waited till he was 27 years old for him to actually experience that. Sorry.
No, that's why I'm not understanding. Everybody goes back to that, like I don't want tags to go out. If you look at it, still give 75% of the tags to everyone. Can you hear me? I lost it.
No, you're good. We're good.
And so he still had all of those years, those 13 years, to try to get at 75% of the tags. I mean, he still had a chance at it. He could have drawn the second or third or fourth or fifth year. And 75% of the tags are available to everyone.
Maybe that's not, maybe for certain members of the commission, that's not acceptable. I'm just expressing my view that maybe we want all of the tags available to everybody who goes into the draw, and feels that the current bonus point system gives a better chance to those who have the more bonus points, who've been in the system longer.
Can I ask another gentleman here that's Washoe County Game Board, who's more in tune with those stats? And Steve, do you remember what the odds are of someone drawing a tag? No, thank you. But your odds are very minuscule no matter what you do. And the drawing is never fair to the people who don't get the tag. But
Well, it is fair to people who don't. I don't wake up when I'm unsuccessful and go, it wasn't fair.
no, I didn't mean it that way. But the odds are really bad for everyone. And I'm just trying to make it so that they're slight. And by doing the 25%, I don't think it's as drastic a measure as most people conceive it. I think it gives those guys a little better chance. It doesn't guarantee them a tag. And
Commissioner Olmberg?
Thank you. Yeah, I just add on to Commissioner Hubbs' train of thought there. When I first got on the commission 4 years ago, we were discussing waiting periods. And I wish I would have had your statistic then. I was not necessarily in support. I argued to retain the 10-year wait period, but my thought was exactly that. 13 years, everybody should wait after they receive a tag, 13 years, and let the next guy get the tag before I get a second. Our system right now, I believe, truly works for dedicated sportsmen. If you're a dedicated sportsman, you put in for those tags for those species of deer, antelope, elk, everything with the exception of Rocky and goats, they work. It works very well. If you keep putting in, we all know everybody around us that puts in regularly, they draw. And they draw in 13 years.
No, I've literally applied for every hunt that the Department of Wildlife has ever had, even before bonus points. So I'm 44 years in trying to get a goat tag, and like 36 for California, and 35 or 34 for a Rocky. And so not everybody draws, and those are really hard tags. But with 50 and 60 tags, I thought I'd get lucky eventually and draw a California permit. And I've actually taken a hunter on a California big game hunt that wasn't even alive when I first applied. And I thought it was wonderful. As a kid, and he had his tag, and he only had 6 or 7 points. I was in it. Most people here should know I hunt sheep, and I guided for sheep for years. I was in another California bighorn hunt. There were 5 of us in camp. Me and one other old guy, and then 3 younger gentlemen that were like 30-ish. All 4 of the other hunters had already drawn, those younger hunters, their California permit. The other old guy, he had his second California permit, and I'm still waiting. And that's not woe is me. I mean, I'm hopefully get lucky one of these days, and I'll get a tag. But it would be nice, and it'd give a glimmer of hope. And it doesn't increase the odds that drastically, nor does it increase the point creep like a lot of people assume, you know, because especially on the elk, antelope, and deer, because there's just so many tags, but they're still available to everybody. It's 75%. Everybody can on the flat. You know, you just want this, want that. Just look at all of those draws. It works. It works in a good way, and I'm hoping you'll see it my way so that Nevada has the very best draw system in the West.
Anybody we have a very good system. Sorry. And I do think it's very important. I mean, we have success on our Silver State tag because everybody, the draws are astronomical, but we have a glimmer of hope. The reason that the lotto system works and people continue to put in, because we have a glimmer of hope. And you're not completely taking that hope away. You're taking 25% of it away, and you only fix something that for 2 categories, the Rocky and the goat, but it'll be a short-term fix because statistically, you just plain old don't give enough tags away that you're always going to be, you're never going to get, you might get maybe 1 or 2 groups, but point creep absolutely will catch up to there, and then it's just a better odds game for those people. And there's no, you know, it limits the pool, but it never, you know, it never completely say, hey, dedicated guy's going to get a tag.
Well, that's why I was trying to concentrate on the most applied for tags, and how it really does work. It really does help those folks. And it works to a certain extent for desert sheep as well. But the elk, antelope, and deer, and everybody thinks 25% is a large number. When the other states are 75 and 50%, and you know, the decades and lifetimes to try to get a tag. It wouldn't be that way for those hunts because of the number of tags available. And 75% are still available to everyone in a random draw, even kids, even 2-point holders.
I'm just pulling something up. Any questions for Commissioner East?
Hi, yeah. I have a question, and it might be for the department. Do we know the number of hunters that apply for bonus points only?
I have some of those numbers.
You have them? And I don't want to judge why someone applies for bonus points only, because we've all been in situations where either work or school or kids or whatever caused us to say, gosh, I can't go into the draw this year. I'm just going to buy a bonus point. And maybe next year I'll be able to go into the draw.
It actually amazed me at how many people do that. You only have so many chances to get a tag in life. Once the big game, I think this is 2019 the odds. For goat, there were 4,356 people.
That bought bonus points only.
Bonus point only. For Rocky Mountain Bighorn, it was 4,760. California Bighorn, it was 4,575. 4,575. Nelson Desert Bighorn, 5,160. Bonus point only. Whole elk, 7,092 people. Bonus point only.
Okay. Because I agree with Chairman Johnston about the bonus points. You know, you don't go into the draw, you don't take your chances, you're just racking up points and expecting to draw at some point. But you're not in the game, in my opinion. You're not in the game. You can refute it, but let me just one more point on your proposal. You know, I've thought a lot about this 3 choices versus 5, and my husband and I drew deer tags last year on our 5th choice. It wasn't the greatest. We had a blast. We didn't get deer. We had so much fun out, spending a week out and running around the hills. But our son got a sheep tag with 12 points. He has saved his money every year since he was 12 to apply for tags because he knew I wasn't going to apply for a bighorn sheep tag for him at 12. He had to do that on his own. And he saved and saved. And for 12 years, he had 12 bonus points. And he got a sheep tag on his 5th choice. So I don't think that concentrating all of these down into 3 choices because you're going to have areas that, in my opinion, aren't the best choice for people. They're not going to apply for all of those areas. And then we're going to have, what are we going to have down the road? A glutton of numbers. I know you say no, but I've seen what happens with people applying and wanting the best areas.
But that's why I tried to point out that through the desert sheep hunters, the top bonus point, they put in for 22 different units. And I'm in that bottom end, and so I used all 5 choices, and I used the last 3 of mine were some of those crap units. And I was amazed at how many people put in for those units, whether it was 1 or 2 tags, and it was hard to even find a sheep in those units. And then my last choice, the last 10 years, the success rate in that unit was only 45 or 50%. So half of the guys went in and didn't get one. And there were still 400 or 500 people applying for that crap unit. And so your point sometimes isn't always valid that they're all, and I know 5 choices sounds wonderful, but once you go down to 3, it actually improves the odds for everyone, and it spreads that application pressure out because there's a ton of really good areas and a ton of places to apply for. One last point, and Jack told me this, and I think it's really important to the Commission and the Department of Wildlife. The cost to implement any changes to the draw program are free. There's no cost to implement a change with California. Am I right on that?
It depends what change comes forward. It could be substantial. Well, we don't have any cost. All changes are covered in the base contract, but it could be substantial work to get it done, which would take away from other work that we're trying to get done. Our base contract is set. We don't pay for a change, but it could be a substantial change, and it could really complicate validation. It depends on how you guys want to change it. It could become a headache.
So, I guess I have by my count, there was roughly 40 California Bighorn sheep tags that we set for this year.
it was close to 60, 59, I believe. 6 non-residents. and
Let's
53.
focus on the residents. Let's focus on one group because one draw.
I believe it was a total of 59.
Okay.
53 of them were resident tag.
Well, let's use 40 because that's easy to do 25%, which would be 10.
12 would be 25% of the 50.
So are the max bonus point holders eligible for the remaining 75%?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, they would be if they didn't draw in the max pool. They would be eligible just like anybody else.
see,
It's not a separate
yeah,
draw,
see,
though.
that's-
No, it's the same draw.
So
If they,
you get a double shot. You get
No,
a
they
shot.
do
You get a
not
shot
get a
at the
double
first
shot.
25%, and then you get a shot at the 75% as long as you don't go over half of the points in a unit.
Brad, you're mistaken on that. And that's what I tried to explain to you. They look through the list, and the list has everyone. And they don't get a double shot. If their tags are gone, they're gone.
No, what I'm saying is, if I'm a max bonus point holder, and you have 40 California Bighorn sheep tags, 10 of those tags, 25%, are going to go to max bonus point holders.
Possibly, not guaranteed.
I thought you wanted 10% of the tags to go to the max bonus point
Yes.
holders.
But what happens if all of those guys applied for the same unit, and there was 4 tags in there, and only 2 went to the max bonus point people, then they're out of the draw.
Okay, what if you told me it wasn't going to be by unit, it was going to be across all the tags,
His choices are by unit.
right? I'm still not following how this works, and maybe I'm just obtuse. I don't know. I'm not following. So if you have 40 California Bighorn sheep tags, 10 of those tags will go to max bonus point holders, 25%.
Correct.
Okay. Now as they go down the list, so that goes out first. Now you have 30 California Bighorn sheep tags.
I thought it was a sprinkler system.
You have 30 tags remaining. Max bonus point holders could still draw those 30 tags.
Possibly. But I mean, but they're not a double dip. They only get one shot at it when their name comes up. Everybody only gets one shot. They get their best number, and that's it.
You get your best number, but when you set aside tags for a particular group of people, then I would.
No, you're not setting them aside. You're limiting the number that they're available to take. They're not set in a separate category.
Oh, all right. I don't agree.
There's only one pass. There's only one draw. Everybody's in the same draw.
I understand that. And somebody, they don't understand. Let's say you get the lowest number in the draw. You know, it depends where that number is assigned to which application. So my lowest number could be tied not to one of the premium hunts, something else.
Yes.
Okay. So how does this work in the draw? So a max bonus point holder puts in for Cal Elk, right?
Aren't
Okay?
they separate
And
bonus
that's his
points?
lowest number. And he gets it. And then he's going to have a number for other things too. So let's say California Bighorn sheep. So we have to then go through all the max bonus point holders first to get them 25% of all the tags.
But see, that's what they list them in order of the lowest to the highest number. And
Yes.
they go down the list until
Right.
all of the tags are missing from each unit, until all the sheep are drawn, all the elk are drawn, and
Understood.
they would go down that list until they hit the 25%.
But don't you have to bring the max bonus point holders to the top of the list to give them 25% of the tags?
No, just because the list has all of the different hunts and all the different draw numbers. It has, you know, doe antelope and mule deer and antelope and elk. And I understand that's a bit confusing, but it's not a second chance at a tag. They only have one chance. And they can only draw up to the 25%.
Yeah.
part of our correspondence is that they gave examples of other states, and other states do allow that pool of people to come back into the general draw, so they do get a double dip.
I think
That's
it's
not what
only,
your proposal is saying, but I mean, there are other examples of that. And I'm with Brad. I'm not understanding how you cannot have this as a separate pool right from the get-go as you go down that list. Maybe Jack can address it, maybe, because I'm not grasping it either. How you could actually identify when you would, as you're going down that list, they're plugging along. You may not get to your dedicated sportsman numbers until they're clear down here, and you've already given away those without, more than 25% because you didn't even encounter any of them yet. As the way, statistically it's,
well, they would
it's listed.
counter the 25% first.
So when you do that, it does become a separate pool of people, and therefore it has those have to be pulled off the top, and those go to that pool of people. Now you could foreseeably take the leftover, or that pool if they're all, for example, putting in for only one area, there are only 2 tags given. There could a bunch of those tags can come back too there because everybody wants of all of the max point holders. Everybody wants it at the same area, so there could be excess that comes back. But I believe he's right. I believe you would have to have a second pool. You'd have to pull that percentage out.
I just think
maybe Jack could address that.
Well, look, let me ask you a question. Let's just take a particular 114 had 3 Rocky Mountain tags going into this year. Okay? And so one of those tags would have to go to a max bonus point holder. 25%.
If there was 8 Rocky tags, it would be 2 of them would go to max.
6.
Well, then
That's 6 of them.
It's like one tag.
All right, so then if that person, one tag goes to max bonus point holder in unit 115 where there's 2 tags, then no other max bonus point holder can draw that other tag in 115 according to your reg.
Yes, but if there's only 6 tags, there's only one applicant.
What's that?
If there's only 6 tags, there's only one max bonus point person in your scenario.
I guess then you're denying max bonus point holders the ability to get the other 5?
No.
So how does a max?
Then isn't that the double dip?
No.
How does a max bonus point holder get a low number? If it's
I'm really not following.
They
get the lowest number so that they can draw that.
Well, let's, for an example, say there's 50 people applying for the Rocky tag, and all of those guys get a low number. And there's only one available. The guy with the lowest number goes first. But the other 49 guys could be so far back in the pack that they're not in the drawing. The other 5 tags go to lower bonus point people.
But my understanding is the system's set up in a way that everybody's got the ability to draw that tag, so even the low bonus point people have the opportunity to draw a low number. So how do you remove those guys out of the system to assure that one of those max bonus point people gets a low enough number that they get to go first? The only way I think you can get there is by having a second system.
No, you don't remove them from the system. You just give the one person that gets the lowest number out of the max pool, you give him the tag.
But how do everybody else top? Because in that pool, you've got people.
They simply, all of them, square their numbers, they get their best number. And so everyone is on the list. So only one of them is in.
I think I see what you're saying now. So you would bypass people that, so if somebody with 2 bonus points has number 1 number for Rocky Mountain, but he's not in the max pool, then you bypass him until you get to somebody that's in that max pool. They get pulled out, they get that tag, they get pulled out.
And then they go back to the guy that had the number 1 number, and he gets his tag. Once the max pool is moved from the draw.
That's what it's a skipping issue, is what it is. Yeah. I mean, it helps to really understand what you're proposing, because I think I see what you're doing now.
But there's really only one draw, and there's only one other western state that allows people in the draw twice. Not, it's only Arizona. They do a bonus pass, and then if the bonus guys don't get a tag, they're back in the draw with new numbers and get a second shot at it. But it's only Arizona. The other states, they just go to the top of the heap.
Any other questions for Mr. Zenz? If not, this is an action item, so we'll take it out to public comment.
Thank you.
Hello, Steve Robinson, Washoe. When we discussed this at our Washoe cabin, I've had numerous discussions with Mr. Zenz. It didn't make sense to me at first at all, and I really don't like the idea. The more I look at it, if there was going to be a max point process, this makes the most sense out of probably any western state. But it doesn't work for the Rocky Mountain goat, mathematically Rocky Mountain sheep, and really California bighorn. It's marginal. And so for some of the reasons we didn't think this was truly ready for prime time, and our recommendation was to put it back in the TAC committee and actually think it through and work it out before it's either discarded or adopted. And I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck with the percentages of draws. It's hard to figure out, but you're looking at maybe 0.2%, 0.02% to 1.2% odds of drawing to different areas in max point. So it's pretty low. Thank you.
Is it on? Yep. My name is Jim Purrier. I'm so confused on it. I suggest it's tabled so all the cabs can look at it and stuff. Personally, I thought, oh, help me get a Rocky tag. And Steve just blew my thought out of the water. So I'd like to really, it's an important enough issue to, if you're going to change anything, to do it right. The one thing I like the 5 choices because it allows the younger kids to have extra choices at better odds or 5 better odd sheep. And the reason that the number 1 preference point people don't get drawn is because there's probably 30 to 40 times more people that have 12 to 18 bonus points. So just that should be looked at it in the formula too. I'm just a little confused, so my suggestion would be to hold off a little while and analyze it more. Thank you.
Additional public comment?
Mel Building, speaking for myself, I guess the thing is on. I agree that something has to be done for maximum bonus point holder. We started this game 29 years ago now. I'm just going to talk about Desert Bighorn sheep. There was 132 tags. There's now over 300. So I'm not saying that I agree with Mr. Zenz on the 25%, but I will say this. The guy that's just getting in his game has a hell of a lot better chance than I did when we first got in this game. So I drew my desert tag in 2009. I was a maximum bonus point holder. There was 137 of us. So I made the comment one day to Mr. Sefton, who used to run this draw. Jack Robb was on the commission then, and I said, I don't care what number you take. But a lot of people back then, when I was drawing 8 and 9 point bonus point holders, were getting those tags. And when you took 137, and I had 19 bonus points at the time, you squared 19 and added 1, divided by 137, there was not one number behind it that even come close to how many numbers we were drawing for with the highest bonus point holder. And that's in reference to what you were saying, Chairman Johnston, guys today with 15. I don't know, because I haven't been looking at it. I was hoping that 15 or 17 think there has to be something to be said when we say, it's not the same, you know, we're taking something away from someone, and there was more people flying back than you were flying. You can't prove that. You're not comparing apples with apples. The reason why I say that is that when I got in this game, I wrote a check for myself, my wife, and my kids for every penny value of everything I was on. I didn't just take my credit card and stick it on the computer and say, here, I'm going to guarantee you this. I guarantee you the check. And that check didn't come back to me for 4 or 5 months. So my point is, there's got to be something to make the deal differently. I think this position is going to be denied, but there has to be something other than maximum.
Thank you.
Rex Flowers for the record. One of my biggest concerns is there's a lot of so there's plenty in there. Bear types being in there, I don't believe that we have a system that takes care of all species across the board. Actually having more species than I do not favor the system, but I've been very fortunate in my lifetime to do that. I have had I've had I've always drawn low numbers. I mean, one sheep tank took me 12 years, but that's it. You know, well, my California sheep tank was 22, but my 2 elk tags were 4 years. My first sheep tag was 4 years, so it's a game of chance. I hate to put it that way, but it affords everybody the same equal opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody kind of cap, Mr. President, the public input that we got from the community and our board were not in favor of this.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay, seeing no further public comment, I'll bring it back to the commission. I will note, I'm going to read Tommy's statement into the record. Fellow commissioners, although I'm going to be absent during agenda item number 24, the petition for big game drawing changes, and will not be involved in the discussion on this item, I'd like to at least note my concerns with the petition. I'll attempt to keep it brief. To put it bluntly, I am completely against the petition. I personally believe Nevada's current draw system is one of the fairest in all western states. When reviewing the bonus point data on deer, elk, antelope, and even the desert bighorn sheep, it is apparent that the current system works. Attempting to utilizing the data on California bighorn, Rocky Mountain bighorn, and mountain goats as an example does a disservice to the current system. The demand for these 3 species far outweighs the minimal number of tags that are issued yearly. Due to the large number of max point holders and the point holders at the levels immediately below them, this proposal would benefit very few while becoming a deterrent for many due to the years or decades it would take to clear out those high point holder levels in the draw. As is seen in other states that have max point pass, new applicants are deterred from applying as they don't believe they ever stand a chance change catching up to the point chance. Lastly, the accumulation of bonus points does not guarantee a tag and never has in Nevada. I think people need to remember that. Even if a 25% max bonus point pass were incorporated, there will still be individuals that will never draw certain tags within their lifetimes. As unfortunate as that is, the demand on certain tags far exceeds the supply, and that is a fact that will not change. Thank you, Tommy Cavilla. Well, I just want to address one thing. I believe this topic has been before the TAC. And I think it's been discussed in various different ways at the TAC committee level, and it never went anywhere in the TAC because the committee felt that it was a Category 3 item, and it didn't move forward. So that it has been addressed in the TAC. In the future, people can bring it back to the TAC if they wish. But the idea that it hasn't been discussed by the TAG allocation and application hunt committee, it has. I recall it. And frankly, I don't think when we start talking about this, people are referring to antelope, deer, and elk. I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's really about the 3 species where there's a severely limited number of tags, and those with the max bonus points think, well, if we get that max system in, I'm finally going to get one of those Rocky tags or California tags or mountain goat tags. And I really think that's the motivating factor here. And I had an economist once I shouldn't even bring this up because I'm not going to get it right. But an economist was explaining how when the mall's really crowded around the holidays and you can't find a parking spot, you think, you know, if those spots weren't reserved for disabled people, I'd have that spot. And he explained how that's not true. It's not the way it works because they would have already been filled in. And I really, truly believe, and I wish I could give a better explanation, but he was a Harvard economist. So I kind of got the point, but I'm not sure I fully understood it. I think it's really that segment that's motivating the 25%, and they're trying to then refer it back to deer, antelope, and elk to justify it. And I can't in my head get my arms around it. I misunderstood the petition at the beginning. That got clarified today. But it seems to me also, if only 50% of tags in a particular unit can go to max bonus point holders, then you're denying them the chance, and the remaining 50% of those tags, if the guys ahead of them, I think some max bonus point holders said, no, I'll take it as it is. I might have better chances that way. So those are my comments. Commissioner Barnes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess when I look at any kind of something like this that this commission has happened to decide, I consider where we are now is what we're considering going to make it better. And I got to agree with what Tommy said that I think that what we have now, it's not perfect, but it's working. And so when I was listening to this, I read through it, I thought, is this going to improve on what we already have? And in my mind, that answer is no. That's my opinion. I don't think this is going to make what we have better. And so for that reason, I can't support this petition.
Commissioner Allenberg?
We did receive a lot of correspondence to this petition. I've been having personal communication with this long before I even seen the petition. People were asking me about it. I hadn't even seen it or knew anything about it. So there has been a lot of discussion. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but of the cabs, I don't recall any of them supporting it. There was some that didn't comment on it, Washoe being one, and I believe Clark didn't comment on it either. But there was a third one too, was it? But anyway, the majority that did comment on it did not support it. There was a couple of correspondents that supported it and didn't, both ways, both sides. And part of the correspondence, there was some other items that come out that interested me. And part of it was a discussion on lifetime tags, lifetime opportunities. That maybe the Go tags and the Rockies should be, in fact, be considered a lifetime tag. That they're done. You get it, you're done, and you're no longer on their pull. That thought process appealed to me. And then again, it's just a reminder of there are tools that we can fix. If we don't like it perfectly, there's still waiting periods. There's all those other factors that we already have that we can change and adjust if we think that can make a difference in our draw rates. And I also, I really like the thought of rewarding dedicated sportsmen. I'm just not too sure that this is how we do it. Looking into other states, you know, they do have rewarding to dedicated programs or to dedicated sportsmen, but a lot of it is tied to volunteer type work. They give above and beyond. They're, you know, maybe awarded a bonus point after so many hours or something like that that would help their draw odds. But I did like it, and I would like to, you know, somehow if I could, you know, or somebody presented something to us that we could acknowledge those dedicated sportsmen. I'm certainly interested in listening.
Hoping my mic will last, but I'm just going to make mine very brief. But I think that's part of the draw system that I've seen from afar is the chance. And when we start to dwindle down the opportunity and chance, people are disinterested, right? I mean, we all wager, we're in a gambling town. I mean, not that this is a gambling lottery or anything, but it's like you'd like to know if you go in on that first draw, you have just as likely of a chance as anybody else, no matter how long you've been doing this. So I brought up the fact that my son was very, very lucky, and I found that out later, to have the opportunity that he has, especially when I'm hearing 13 years, and how much his life would change in 13 years had he not experienced that. You know what I mean? It really changed the way he viewed a lot of things in his life, to go put all that work in and be successful. And I think, too, to speak on economics, but I always think of Charles Dickens and the tragedy of the commons, right? It's just, there's a lot of people, and there's only so much opportunity. And the more people we have, the less opportunity, and that's what we're feeling here, but that's been around for centuries. So I would rather bank on the fact that we're not giving it all away to individuals who've been vested longer, because it's going to cause disinterest to a younger population coming down the pike, and that's my concern with it.
Commissioner Valentine?
Is this on? Okay. I guess in my mind, when I first read the petition, I was come before the TAC committee at one point in time. We did consider it a number 3 priority. But I think there's some interesting numbers that Mr. Vincent presented that if we had a formal presentation that it might alleviate some of the guesses and questions that still stand in my mind, and I wouldn't be against possibly having that opportunity, or the commission having another opportunity to look at it if the commission would be up to that. I mean, obviously, you being a short-timer, but it might be something that the TAC committee could relook at with some numbers and bring back to the commission.
Well, I believe there would be nothing that would prohibit the TAC committee from looking at the issue again. We do have, though, a petition before us. If we to accept the petition, my understanding is we're supposed to then proceed to rulemaking to adopt the change. And so keep in mind what the question before us is today. Informational items or committee level is different, but we do have the petition. I did take a look at Go Hunt. Go Hunt had a discussion board on this petition. They had a brief article on it. Some very negative comments on that discussion. I'm not necessarily saying that that is representative of everyone. There were some in favor. We got a lot of correspondence on this, and I would say the overwhelming majority was against it. But I will note, I got I thought, a very well-written public comment from, I believe it was Seth Montez, who said he believed Mr. Zen's heart was in the right place in trying to do something for max bonus point holders, but that the 25% setting aside of tags was not the method or the right way to go about it. And I think Mr. Montez summed it up. I think Commissioner Barnes summed up something really well. Would this make the draw better? Right now, I can't say yes. If I can't say yes to that question, then my position would be to vote to deny the petition. I won't be around, but perhaps the TAC committee will look at it again. Perhaps this commission will look at it again with more detail and information. I don't know. But sitting here today with unknowns and a lot of questions and opposition, then my view would be, and my position is I will not support accepting the petition and to proceed with rulemaking. Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I started off rocky, but I do, honestly, Mr. Zenz, I think I understand how you were trying to move this forward. I think I understand now, and I'm just not sure that it gets us where we ultimately want to be. I'm just at a place. I agree with all the comments that have been made. I'm not going to be able to support the petition. I just wanted to put on the record that it took a little while to get me there, but I do understand what you were proposing, and I'm just not quite there on it. And I agree. If there's an appetite to discuss it moving down the road, maybe a TAC committee would be a better venue to look at it again and go from there. So that's where I stand on it.
And I would just add one thing, is that the TAC committee does receive public input and public ideas. And you can submit your ideas and proposal to the TAC committee for consideration. I understand. Okay, any additional comments or discussion? Seeing none, I would make a motion that we deny the petition of Mr. Zenz with respect to the big game tag drawing changes.
I'd second that.
Motion made to deny the petition, seconded by Commissioner Hubbs. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. At this time, we'll move to agenda item 25, which is a license appeal by Wade James Asher. Mr. Asher, I do not believe is here. He verbally indicated to the department that he was not going to attend. And he is not here, but we did not receive written confirmation of it. I should just, for the record, Mr. Asher's hunting and fishing privileges were suspended for 5 years by the Department of Wildlife, and he is appealing that suspension. I believe that procedurally we can deny the appeal based upon Mr. Asher's failure to appear at this hearing.
Do we deny the appeal or do we motion to dismiss it? I can't remember offhand.
Well, I think we could do either one. I have a thought, though, that with current circumstances, and I'm not certain anyone can understand what we are and are not permitted to do in terms of travel, and he is living in Idaho. I don't know what Idaho's status is. I guess my view would be, my view is to deny the appeal for failure of the appellant to appear, and also noting that even if we were, and we could entertain the merits of the appeal, there was no error in the process that was followed by the department. And just to walk through, Mr. Asher pled guilty to 2 gross misdemeanors in the 4th Judicial District Court of the state of Nevada in Elko County. Count 1 that he pled guilty to was unlawful possession of a big game animal. Count 2, the second gross misdemeanor was conspiracy to conceal or destroy evidence. The judgment of conviction was entered on March the 10th of 2020. NAC 501.200, the demerit point schedule, identifies 12 demerit points for any gross misdemeanor conviction under NRS 501.376, which was the conviction, which is part of the judgment of conviction. It's in our packet. And then NAC 501.210 subsection 4 states that you have an immediate 5-year suspension for any gross misdemeanor conviction under 501.376. And so we have the judgment of conviction in the appellate record that was filed on March the 10th of 2020, and on April 29th of 20, the notice of the 5-year suspension went from the department as a result of that judgment of conviction. So with that, I don't know if we need to admit any of this into like the record.
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
I would like to just additionally call Brian Eller just to confirm his conversations and discussion with the Asher family on the record, why he did not attend. If there's any lack of clarity as it relates to COVID or any other issue, at least we can clarify that.
For the record, I'm Captain Brian Wildlife. Mr. Chairman and Commission. I believe it was 3 days ago, at least this week, I talked to Dave Asher's wife. She called on the phone and was asking about the appeal. She explained to me that they were thinking on coming, and I kind of explained to her how the appeal works. She mentioned to me that the process that we followed was she wasn't going to be able to argue that. In fact, she just told me that he was going to come and try to get he wanted his fishing license back. After talking to her for a little bit, she told me she was going to try to call me. That's what I like.
And I would note that the appeal form from Mr. Asher does not state that the department made any error in revoking his license privileges for 5 years. It just said, I feel the length of suspicion is excessive. I understand what I did was illegal, but given the situation I found myself in, I became a victim of circumstance. I will refrain from commenting on him saying he was the victim of circumstance, but if he was here, maybe I would address that comment. But it seems that Mr. Asher's position in the appeal form itself was, yeah, I did something illegal, and yeah, it was pretty bad. I just don't want to suspend him for 5 years, or now he wants his fishing privileges back. And that's not a basis to overturn the suspension. We don't have that authority. We've discussed that in other appeals. The administrative code and the statute are what they are, and what he pled guilty to required the assessment of 12 demerit points and 5-year suspension. So,
And I agree with Chairman Johnson. I think we're looking at the process, and did the department follow the correct process here? And I don't see any error in that as well. I just, I'm not 100% sure if it's a dismissal for lack of responding or showing, or if it's a complete denial on the facts. I guess that would be an issue for our HR.
I think that's the distinction without any substance. I think you can either deny the appeal here, or you can move to dismiss it for lack of appearance. The whatever the commission wants to do as to the way you want to proceed. That's not a concern for us.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion. I would move to deny the appeal of Wade James Asher for the following grounds. One, Mr. Asher failed to appear for the hearing today. And secondly, as previously stated, Mr. Asher pled guilty to gross misdemeanor in violation of NRS 501.376. Under the Administrative Code 501.200, that's an assessment of 12 demerit points. In accordance with NAC 501.210, subsection 4, requires a 5-year suspension for a gross misdemeanor conviction under 501.376. Therefore, the department did not commit any error in revoking Mr. Asher's hunting and fishing privileges for a 5-year period under the law. And this commission has no authority to simply lessen the penalty. That is my motion. Everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Okay. Move on then. I know we've been going a long time. Agenda item 26, future commission meetings and commission committee assignments. Secretary Tony Wasley and Chairman Brad Johnston for possible action. The next commission meeting is scheduled for August 14th and 15th, 2020 in Elko. The commission will review and discuss potential agenda items for that meeting. The commission may change the time and meeting location at this time. The chairman may designate and adjust committee assignments as necessary at this meeting. Secretary Wasley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, August 14, 15, Elko. Location to be determined. We may find ourselves in an outside venue much like this, assuming we're able to have an in-person meeting. If we are, we will not be video streaming or teleconferencing since we'd be in a rural location and likely outside. The action items contained would include the election of a chair and vice chair. We have a possible workshop for the regulation simplification of NAC 488 pending a committee meeting in July that would predate the commission meeting. We'll have to wait and determine the outcome of that committee meeting. We do have 3 commission general regulations for possible adoption. They include CGR 490, the party bonus point first come first served regulation, CGR 491, notification of draw results, and CGR 492, the thermal imaging optics regulations. For committee and committee reports and other reports, we will have our annual status report on the application hunt system from Calcamine. Regulation simplification committee, as I mentioned, would be meeting in July. We'll have a report from that committee. We'll also have a public works contracts report as required, a WAFWA annual conference report, and I would at this point share that the WAFWA conference will be held virtually this year. That may provide an opportunity for additional participation. There still is a registration fee, but it's somewhat limited, and there's also a bulk reduction, a bulk rate on that, so we can work with any commissioner that would be interested in getting that information. Please reach out and we'll make sure you're aware of that. And then that August meeting is typically where we have hosted the CAB workshop. So again, depending on the venue, the weather, and the interest, we could also have a CAB workshop. At this point, I think it would be appropriate to solicit items of interest from CABs. We have a little bit of time between now and August 14, 15 to try to put some stuff together. So if there is an interest, I do have a couple items that have been shared here from the CABs. As far as informational items, we have had a desire expressed by the president of the Nevada OGT Citizens Board to present the Law Enforcement Professional of the Year award. One of the recipients of that is a warden in Elko. So if in fact Commission desired, we could award that individual there, assuming the OGT president would be willing to travel. We'll also provide an update, as we know, on the Fallon Naval Range and Training Center and the Nevada Test and Training Range as far as the National Defense Authorization Act. We have a couple ideas for the Conservation Partner Spotlight. We have a long-standing NGO in Elko Bighorns Unlimited. We talked about as recently as yesterday, the recipient of some of the heritage tags. We also have a fairly new chapter of the Audubon Society, the Bristlecone Audubon chapter, one of 3 chapters in the state and the newest. We also, with the Commission's permission, we could provide an update on Recovering America's Wildlife Act. We should know more on that at that time. As per Commissioner Hubb's desire to discuss some of the national narratives around human-wildlife interactions and pandemics and disease, we could provide an update on some of those national efforts. And then we're also reaching out to LCB in determining the status of the shed antler reg and the landowner comp regs, which we could also update or possibly have under adoption or workshop, depending on where they are.
Any committee items or meetings that may occur of note? All right, if that's that, we can move on to agenda item 27, public comment period. Persons wishing to speak are requested to complete a speaker's card and present it to the recording secretary. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. No action can be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Any public comment? We don't take public comment on no, we don't take public comment.
Hi, this is Catherine Smith for the record from Marshall County. First, I'd like to apologize for poking the bear one last time. It truly was a coincidence I am here today. I understand how difficult it can be to hear a board or commission you're a part of advise. It should in no way minimize the work you do on the board, but it is a comment on the process. As there are 2 lawyers on the commission, think if every case you tried required 7 members of the jury to have core beliefs different than your client, virtually guaranteed to make your perspective. That's what we have here. Despite the mission of science, most, if not all, of the decisions made by this commission are social, or we could just defer 100% to the department. Wildlife in this state has huge challenges. We desperately need more funding unless we truly feel these license sales will solve all of your problems. NDOW and the Commission both need to broaden their diversity, and if you don't believe me, look around. Wildlife needs a broader coalition, and to paraphrase John Meacham, in our finest hour, we open our arms instead of clenching our fists. We look out rather than in, and we accept rather than reject. True leaders are not remembered for defending their base, but bringing their base to a place unexpected. And to finish on a lighter note, to quote President Lyndon Johnson, it is much better to have your enemies inside the tent peeing out than outside the tent peeing in. Thank you.
Jim Purrier, representing Nevada Bighorns Unlimited, Reno. The last meeting, we had a discussion about the guzzler crew and the lack of volunteer hours to be able to get matching funds to help pay for that crew and all that they do. And then I heard today, this is my talk, that I want to make sure we get together and figure out a way to not encourage people to gather, to go out and check guzzlers. Like I've been to about 7 this June, and I wish I could have called in my mileage, and my time I was there digging out mud and grass away or brush away from the drinker itself, and maybe that would help with some of those funding shortfall that Nevada, the state's going to have. So Chris and I are going to get together, and I will hopefully be able to follow through right away.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, I just, it's a pleasure welcoming you all here to Yerington, and it's been a true honor to serve with you on this occasion. We'll stand adjourned.